Santiago del Carmen Maria, the queen of crowning thought. I speak truth unapologetically.
Epstein's shadow. The orange tyrant finally cracks the vault. Ladies and gentlemen, hold onto your pearls because the vault of secrets just got a crowbar jammed in it. Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury transcripts from that sham of a Florida probe back in 2006. Unsealed. Yes, unsealed by order of a federal judge who couldn't ignore the new law screaming for sunlight on this rotting mess. And guess what? The orange tyrant's name isn't just floating in the ether anymore, it's right there, tangled in the documents like a bad hairpiece on a windy day. Welcome to the Gossip Hour, where the elite's dirty laundry finally hits the spin cycle. I'm your unfiltered host, and today we're roasting the ghosts of Palm Beach with a side of brutal truth. Oh, where to start with this circus? Picture it, 2005, Epstein's got his creepy little kingdom in Palm Beach, luring in underage girls like it's a twisted candy store. The feds poke around, build a grand jury case that's supposed to nail this predator to the wall. But what happens? A sweetheart deal so sweet it could give you diabetes. No federal charges, just a slap on the wrist from the state, 13 months in a cushy jail where he pops out for work release like it's happy hour at the country club. And who was the U.S. attorney overseeing that farce? None other than the man himself, the orange tyrant, back when he was just a real estate hustler with a penchant for gold toilets and questionable friends. Fast forward to now, December 2025, and Congress, in a rare bipartisan enough is enough moment, passes the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They shove it across the desk, and even the orange tyrant, after his initial foot-dragging tantrum, signs it into law last month. Why the flip? Pressure from all sides, I suppose. His own base howling for more dirt, Democrats waving subpoenas like party favors. The result? Judge Rodney Smith in Florida says, "Fine, unseal the damn transcripts." Boom. The Justice Department gets the green light to redact the victims' names and spill the rest, all those unclassified records, communications, investigative files on Epstein and his sidekick Ghislaine Maxwell. It's not automatic release yet. The DOJ has until December 19 to cough it up. But mark my words, this is the domino that topples the facade. Now, let's get to the juicy bits, shall we? These transcripts aren't just dusty paper, they're a roadmap to how the powerful play dodgeball with justice. Victims testified, prosecutors grilled witnesses, and somewhere in the mix, Epstein's web of connections gets sketched out in ugly detail. High-profile names, flights to that infamous island, parties that make a frat house look wholesome. And yes, the orange tyrant's fingerprints are all over the peripherals. Remember those emails from earlier dumps? His name pops up over 1,000 times, calls from Epstein, mentions in logs, that infamous "I've known Jeff for 15 years" quip he tried to spin as distance. Here's the roast. The orange tyrant loves to strut around Mar-a-Lago. Oh wait, that's the same turf where Epstein hunted for his next massage appointment. Coincidence in his world, sure, but let's call it what it is. A club for men who think rules are for the little people. He signed the law, all right, but only after his administration's earlier memo basically said, "Nah, no more Epstein tea, it's not appropriate." Not appropriate, says the guy who banned books from libraries while his pals trafficked kids. Hypocrisy so thick you could spread it on toast. And don't get me started on how this Transparency Act overrides centuries of grand jury secrecy. Congress had to step in because the system was built to protect creeps like Epstein, not the girls he destroyed. Maxwell's rotting in prison for 20 years, good riddance, but Epstein slipped the noose with a bedsheet in 2019. Convenient, that, but wait, it gets better or worse, depending on your stomach for irony, this unsealing. It's tied to probes from 2006 to 2007 in Florida, plus pending ones in New York for Epstein's 2019 bust and Maxwell's trial. House Oversight just dropped fresh pics of Little St. James, that island of horrors with bedrooms that scream, no questions asked, and a wall of masks like some demented costume party from hell. Speed dial phones scribbled with names that could fill a who's who of scandal. And through it all, the orange tyrant's shadow looms not as the star, but as the guy who partied at the edge of the abyss and then played dumb when the bodies surfaced. Truth time, no chaser. This isn't justice. It's a belated autopsy on a murder of accountability. Epstein didn't operate in a vacuum. He had enablers, from prosecutors who looked the other way to billionaires who booked the Lolita Express like it was Delta. The Orange Tyrant. He banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after some falling out, or so the story goes. But those documents. They'll show the calls, the overlaps, the casual corruption that let a monster roam free. Victims like Virginia J, for God rest her, gone too soon this year, fought for this light. And now, finally, it's cracking through. But here's the blunt pill. If the Orange Tyrant really wanted transparency, he'd release the full client list himself. Instead, he signs a law under duress and lets the courts do the dirty work. Classic deflection. Because nothing says drain the swamp like protecting your swamp butt is. We deserve every syllable of those transcripts. Not for gotchas, but for the girls whose lives were collateral in the game of elite egos. This escalation, it's high noon for the untouchables, and if it singes a few orange-tinted egos along the way, what a tragedy. So there you have it, darlings, the Epstein saga's latest twist, served raw and real. Stay vigilant because secrets this big don't die easy. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your BS detector on high. Epstein's poison pen. Orange Tyrant knew the score. Listen up, truth seekers, because the skeletons in the closet just started rattling louder than a bad spray tan in a windstorm. Newly released emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate courtesy of House Democrats who aren't playing nice drop a bomb. Epstein himself scribbling that the Orange Tyrant knew about the girls. Yes, those girls, the underage victims funneled into his web of depravity. And get this, he claims the Orange Tyrant told Ghislaine Maxwell to knock it off at Mar-a-Lago. Dramatic pause, voice drops low. If that's not a neon sign flashing guilty by association, I don't know what is. Buckle in, because we're diving headfirst into this cesspool of elite enablers, where friendship with a monster means you either looked away or held the door open. I'm your fearless gossip slinger, and today, we're serving subpoena-sized shade. Flash back to the golden haze of the early 2000s, when the Orange Tyrant and Epstein were thicker than thieves at a tax dodge seminar. Mar-a-Lago wasn't just a club. It was ground zero for their bromance parties dripping with champagne, models milling about like appetizers, and whispers of something far fouler bubbling under the surface. Epstein, the convicted creep fresh off his slap-on-the-wrist plea in 2008, logs over 1,000 mentions of the Orange Tyrant in his black book alone. Phone calls, flights on the Lolita Express, 7 documented jaunts, including that eyebrow-raising 1997 trip with his then 15-year-old pageantry darling. Cozy, right? Like a fox guarding the henhouse while eyeing the menu. But oh, the emails, these aren't dusty rumors. They're Epstein's own feverish fingerprints, released last month from a trove of 23,000 documents shoveled to the House Oversight Committee. Take the 2011 missive to Maxwell, his right-hand rotten apple now cooling her heels for 20 years behind bars. Epstein types, "That dog that hasn't barked is the Orange Tyrant, spent hours at my house with him." Hours at Epstein's lair with a trafficking survivor, and not a peep from the man who prides himself on telling it like it is. Instead, he plays the silent sentinel, letting the horrors unfold while schmoozing the staff. Then there's the 2019 gut punch to Michael Wolff, the author who's made a career dissecting the Orange Tyrant's circus act. Just months before Epstein's suicide, wink wink, he vents. "The Orange Tyrant said he asked me to resign, never remember ever." Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Stop what, exactly? The poaching of young women from Mar-a-Lago's spa roster? The massages that weren't? Epstein's not mincing words here. He's bragging, bargaining, basically waving a signed confession that his pal in the White House wasn't just adjacent to the abyss he was peering right in and saying, "Tone it down, boys." And this from the guy who later boasts he severed ties after a falling out. Please, that's like a vegan claiming they quit the steakhouse because the napkins were too pink. Here's where the mockery meets the meat grinder. The orange tyrant, king of deflection, spins this yarn that he booted Epstein for hitting on club staffers, a heroic tale of boundary setting. But these emails, they paint him as the guy who knew the score, whispered warnings to Maxwell, and then zipped his lips tighter than a vault at Fort Knox. Remember Virginia Giuffre, the brave soul who spilled her guts in depositions and a memoir before her tragic passing this year. She swore under oath the orange tyrant never touched her, met him just once as a spa girl. Noble, sure, but Epstein's words scream otherwise. Knowledge, complicity in the cover, hours spent in the viper's nest, and wolf. He confirms he was prodding Epstein to spill on their ties for his Trump exposés, turning the predator into a source. Leverage, baby, the kind that could topple empires if it ever went public demand. It's a roar, darlings. Polls show over 3/4 of Americans baying for the full Epstein files, redacted for victims but raw for the rest. Why? Because historical ties like these, Epstein calling the orange tyrant his closest friend. In 2002, sharing the same orbit of power and perversion don't evaporate with a ban from the golf course. They fester. They demand accountability. Yet the White House, they cry smear, accuse Democrats of cherry-picking like it's a bad brunch buffet. Selective. Says the administration that slow-walked transparency acts and hid behind grand jury shields until Congress kicked the door down. Hypocrisy isn't just a scent on the orange tyrant, it's his cologne. Truth bomb, no filter. These persistent questions aren't gossip, they're the unfinished business of justice. Epstein didn't build his trafficking empire solo. He had spotters, silencers, and yes, friends in high places who turned blind eyes for access and favors. The orange tyrant claims ignorance, but knew about the girls isn't a footnote, it's a flashing red alert, possible involvement. The dots connect themselves, the flights, the houses, the hushed pleas to stop. Victims like Giuffre fought for this reckoning, and now, with Maxwell jailed and the estate coughing up secrets, the pressure's on. But here's the roast that burns. If the orange tyrant truly drained swamps, he'd floodlight his own shadows. Instead, he signs half measures and lets the courts play detective. Classic all bluster, no backbone. We're not done, people. This is the thread that unravels the whole rotten tapestry. Demand the full drop, every email, every log, every lie exposed. Because in the game of elite thrones, silence is complicity, and complicity, that's the real crime. There it is, straight no chaser. The orange tyrant's Epstein entanglement, clawing back into the spotlight where it belongs. Stay fierce, stay informed, because sunlight isn't just the best disinfectant, it's the only one that sticks. Catch you on the flip side. I just want to thank you all. Like, share, comment, and follow to stay connected. It also helps me out a lot. I appreciate your time and I love you all. I am Santiago del Carmen Maria, the queen of crowning thoughts, because I say it like it is. I will as well make shorter audio. This way is easier for you all. Thank you for being patient. Crowning Thoughts, True Speaker, copyright 2025 by Santiago DC Maria, is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share, alike 4.0 International.
She walks the line on a narrow street, Santiago's heat on her restless feet. Words like fire burn the air, they meet. True speaker, she don't bow or retreat. Maria, Maria,